เมื่อมองดูนกพกพินบินลับไปเมื่อมองสายชนถึงไหลรินยามเหงาเราถอนใจ
your thumb, okay? But between that and what is immediately adjacent to it is interstitial fluid. And even inside of it, encapsulating, is synovial fluid in the bursa of all the tissue. And that has bacteria. It's not sterile, okay? Because, and it's certainly not sterile of virus, because now we're talking critters that are so small that they can go through a tendon. Literally, osmosis can penetrate slowly, inefficiently, okay, but yes, can do, okay? So it's part of the issue. I don't know how much, like on spinal deformation and that kind of thing, but the main thing I'm saying is, why are the ligaments, tendons, and connective tissue in your whole body brittle? Why? Because they're supposed to be elastic. And I mean so much so that it can be deformed like 2 times its length and not break. And yet you are brittle, and if you fall a little bit, or you get hit a little bit, or you trip a little bit, or you cough too hard, things break. Why is that? Okay, yes.
Diet. My father, he used to drink an average of a gallon of milk a day,
Mm.
and so he had degenerative disc disease,
Okay.
herniated disc.
Okay. Yeah, it's not the milk. How about that? I know I'm probably not supposed to say that. More than likely, it's what's not in the milk. In other words, if you drink commercial milk, it doesn't have the bacteria it's supposed to have. By volume, probably 20% of milk is supposed to be bacteria. Supposed to be. Okay? And that bacteria is what is in charge of buffering and digesting the milk. And so when you drink the milk, if you don't have that bacteria in the same place at the same time, same place, same time, same bat channel, same bat time, if you don't have all that at the same time, if you don't have the colostrum and the enzymes that naturally occur in raw milk with the probiotic populations, broad probiotic, then when you drink that milk, it's not really milk. We call it milk, but pasteurized milk is missing about half of everything that makes milk milk. So it's milk in name only. Okay, so if he was drinking a gallon of unpasteurized milk, he would have exactly the opposite effect. You can drink unpasteurized milk to cure allergies. You can drink unpasteurized milk to cure osteoporosis. You can drink unpasteurized milk to cure gut dysbiosis. You can eat unpasteurized cheese and unpasteurized butter and unpasteurized milk. Okay, that's fresh. I'm saying not, not some, I don't know, some contaminated version of whatever I'm talking about, okay? And this is ancient nutrition history, and it's modern, state-of-the-art scientific understanding at the same time. You can be lactose intolerant, but you can drink a gallon of whole unpasteurized milk and have no adverse effects. And you can be so lactose intolerant that you can't eat a cheese cracker without having an adverse reaction, and you can gulp 10 ounces of unpasteurized milk, and it will do nothing but give you energy. Nothing but give you energy. And in fact, it will instantly reduce your symptoms of allergy. And it's not the milk that does it, it's all the cofactors, because milk is a living thing. Like a whole fruit is a living thing. Like a whole vegetable is a living thing. Milk directly from the tit is a living thing. It's alive, okay? And it's only after you kill it by cooking it, heating it, pasteurizing it, boiling it, and extracting all of the colostrum, all of the enzymes, all of the bacteria from it, which is called common milk production. In the mainstream, it's called making milk, right? Then it becomes something else. It still has some nutritional value. So anyone who says there's no nutritional value obviously has never worked in a lab and has never actually read a lab assay of what's in pasteurized milk, because yeah, it still does. However, it also will cause you to have allergy symptoms. And there's a lot of milk now that actually is contaminated. In other words, intentionally so. In other words, there are adjuncts that they add to the milk: coagulants, clarificants, surfactants, flow enhancers, and other things, colorants even, that are added to the milk to make it wider and flow easier, have a certain consist, that are added to the milk. And they are not required to put that on the container, because the FDA said as long as what they put into the milk is less than 5% of the total volume of the milk, they can have 0 ingredients. On the label, it'll just say milk, pasteurized milk. But they, yeah, well, no, that's the law.
I mean,
they're not bought off. That's the law.
Yeah, because the dairy.
But that's true for all food. No, I get what you're saying, but it's not the dairy lobby. That is true for all food. 5% contaminants in any food, any processed food, and milk, see, is a processed food. Okay? Technically, even beef is a processed food. And you can have additives in beef. You can have colorants in beef. You can have in your chicken or whatever, up to 5% of the volume, and do not have to put it on the label. That alone is the biggest argument for non-GMO, organic, anything. That's the biggest argument I know. Okay? Although we have some issues with that too, which maybe I'll talk about another time. All right. Okay. Real quick, we're going to move right on. We have so much to do today. Now I'm going to segue for a few minutes into something that's related but different. That's because I'm a Monty Python fan. And now for something completely different. Okay? I gave you a remedy, which is based on the Mimom. It's a blue liquid. It is water, and it is methylene blue. And I started off talking about the methylene blue, that it was the first chemical drug, first used as an aniline dye to be able to see cells on a microscope, because it penetrated the cell wall instantly, and so completely, then you could see that cell on a slide on a microscope, even if the light was not good, just reflected light on a mirror into the microscope. And then somebody else went and said, well, wait a minute though, but what would it do to living cells? And they found out that it does like 1 million things that are really interesting and really good. And this is still listed in the official pharmacopoeia of the Food and Drug Administration and so on and so forth. But methylene blue is probably one of the most heavily researched drugs of all drugs. Okay? One of the most heavily researched drugs of all drugs, because it's been heavily researched in 120 countries for over 100 years. For over 100 years. So if you started like I did, started looking at research on methylene blue, you just get to a point where you're tired of reading about it. Because, it's like 1 million pages. And eventually you're like, I'd like to read something else. Every once in a while, every couple of years, I'd like to read, something that's not about methylene blue. You would rapidly find yourself in that situation. So what most people do is they'll say, well, I just want to look at recent research, because of course recent research is better than older research, right? Wrong. Wrong. Because recent research is political. So a lot of recent research articles and whatnot are very inaccurate, highly inaccurate. Why? Because they're written with a political agenda, and or they're written as paid advertisements by drug companies. So there was actually a time when that wasn't the case. So actually research that's published, in my opinion, more than 10 or 15 years ago is much more reliable than what you see now. Although there might be some good in what you see now, but it's hard to tell because you got to go. Part of your research into the research article is you've got to find out who published it, who paid for it, who did those doctors work for. Were they contract salary employees of XYZ drug company? And is a synopsis of that research pro that drug company's product? You've got to ask these questions now, where it used to be you didn't have to ask these questions. Okay? But they found out it has antibacterial properties, antifungal properties, and it's antiviral. Pathogenic bacteria. See, it doesn't kill all bacteria, just kills the baddies. Antiviral doesn't just kill all the virus, it only kills what appear to be the harmful viruses like, shall I say, coronavirus. There are many, many studies. See, remember, we've known about coronavirus, that it exists, for many years. It's not new, okay? Not new. And so we've been treating and dealing with it for many years. Not new. All the treatments that worked 10 years ago still work today. They're just not meeting a social, political, drug company-based profit agenda, which is why they're not being promoted. And also, methylene blue in minute doses. See, I'm talking, it's a 2% solution that's in the Mimom, which is then diluted. And so you're doing a less than 2% solution. So you're doing, maybe a 0.001% dilution, which is homeopathic, okay? No possible harm can come to you. And the only effective result of taking it is that it will reduce pathogenic bacterial population, pathogenic viral population, and so on. And then here's the other things. I talked about stem cell. The reason why I talked so much about stem cell is that there's research that's been done 25 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and also at least one research paper from last year, 2020. It was done in 2018, but it was published in 2020, that shows that very minute, even microscopic amounts of methylene blue stimulate stem cell production. Stimulate stem cell production. It's anti-inflammatory, okay? It stimulates stem cell production. It's antibacterial, anti-infectious, okay? It stimulates ATP mechanism in cells that are dying, so cells that are so stressed from whatever reason, emotional, mental, physical, whatever, that are dying, that it can actually lengthen their life substantially. And I mean substantially lengthen their life. It is immediately restorative to skin, damage to the skin. So you should always be using something with a little methylene blue on your skin. If you have aging, if you have dying cells or dead cells or whatever, you can use it on sunburn. So for example, the solution I gave you, technically speaking, if you put it in a spray bottle and spritz your face with it, it would heal sunburn almost immediately. It's interesting. And that's a direct proof of repair of cellular damage. And if it can repair a sun damage almost immediately, okay, overnight, literally, then it will do the same for your liver. It will do the same for your kidneys. It will do the same for muscle tears and strains and strain. It will do the same for, and there are benefits in the brain and how it affects neurons too. It desensitizes in the sense of anxiety. One of the medical, clinical symptoms of anxiety is excess tonicity in the nervous system called sympathetic atonia. In other words, the nerves in general are more active than they need to be. All things considered, you're really not dying. All things considered, a bear is actually not chasing you up a tree right now. All things considered, you are not in imminent danger of being stabbed to death by a random stranger in the park right now. So there's actually no reason why your nervous system should have that level of attenuation. Okay? So, and we call that measurably sympathetic atonia. So there's a clinical word to describe what that is. Okay? So substances like methylene blue turn the volume down, take the edge off. They don't inhibit function at the same time. They actually preserve the life of the neuron. The neurons live longer because of it. See, the more excited the neurons are, the shorter their life is. The shorter their life. And so as they die, they have to be replaced. That's that stem cell delivery mechanism I was talking about earlier. If you have chronic inflammation, while you have stress, then the cells are not replaced as fast as they could be because they can't get there from here. They can't get to where they need to go. It's not magic, stem cells produced in the bone marrow. It's got to go to, physically has to transport to where it needs to be to do the thing to become differentiated. And inflammation creates resistance to your own circulation. So inflammation is a big problem. Again, it's nutritional. And in this context, even though the methylene blue is a drug, we're using it as a nutrient. And let me say this because some people need to hear it. Okay, I'm not a Luddite. Do you know what Luddite is? Do you know what that word means? What does the word Luddite mean?
It's someone who who won't use computers and modern electronic stuff.
Technology. Luddite means you're anti-technology. That's a dictionary definition, okay? But yeah, hesitant to use technology, believing all technology is harmful, okay? That's why I say I'm not a Luddite, okay? I enjoy the air condition. I like to read where I can actually see the words versus read in the dark, which causes eye strain. I am recording on a video camera, okay, using a microphone, okay. These are all technologies, okay. Drugs are a technology which has been around for hundreds of years. Methylene blue was the first drug, okay. All drugs are not harmful. All drugs, all synthetic compounds are not inimical to life. Okay, they're not. And I want to suggest to you, I'm not going to tell you what to believe, but I'm going to suggest to you that you consider this, that you cannot be so natural that you are against all technology and which includes all drugs. Okay, I would not be alive today if not for the fact that when I contracted H1N1 in Thailand many years ago, Asian bird flu, and I became deathly ill with a fever of 105 and was coughing up blood and my eyes turned black as I was dying from respiratory failure in H1N1. And my Thai friend picked me up from the guest house and dragged me over to the hospital because there was no ambulance where I was at. There was no ambulance. There was no ambulance. No one to call 911. You could dial 911. Nobody would come because there was no ambulance. So my friend missed me, came looking for me, found me in a wet, delirious, feverish state where I was coughing up blood and my eyes were black. And Mark dragged me to the nearest Thai hospital. They diagnosed me, put me in a hospital bed, and started me on IVs immediately. And one of the things that they put me on was an IV Cipro. Cipro is a chemical antibiotic which was invented and developed under DARPA contract by the U.S. Army to protect soldiers who were infected with anthrax bioweapon on the battlefield. Right? That's the history of Cipro. Cipro was invented by the U.S. Army as an antibiotic to preserve the life of American servicemen who would be attacked with bioweapons of, say, anthrax on the battlefield. Okay, and then it was privately contracted for American drug companies to make it, and it's worldwide. It's available worldwide. It's the most powerful antibiotic that money can buy. Let's put it that way, because military grade, okay? Military grade, right? They put me on the Cipro, and by the next day, I was fever-free, okay? Within 3 days, I was out of the hospital. In 3 days, never had to be on a respirator, okay? And in 5 days, I was good to go. I was off to my life doing stuff that I needed to be doing. I wasn't 100%, but I was pretty good. Why? Because the second I got out of the hospital, I went to the drugstore, and I bought every probiotic they had. And I bought every box of vitamin C that they had. And I bought every box of vitamin D that they had in that drugstore at that time. And I immediately started choking it down. I was doing 60,000 IUs of vitamin C the first day. Okay? 10,000 vitamin D, et cetera, right? And I recovered in about a week. If I had not been admitted to the hospital on that Monday, I would have been dead by Wednesday, maybe Tuesday. I would have been dead. If I wasn't dead, I would have been brain damaged. Maybe I am brain damaged. Maybe that explains some of the quirkiness I have even today. It's like I had a little brain damage when I had that 105 fever. But I would not be alive today if not for that antibiotic. That's a fact. Okay? So I cannot be a Luddite. I cannot be against all drugs because I know that some drugs used appropriately can save life. Some drugs used appropriately can save life. And so that's why I'm very cautious about telling people to stop all the drugs in their life until A, I know what they are and I know what they're doing. Okay? And there's really easy ways to do that, even for you guys at this level. You can get what's called the Merck manual. Now it's online. Merck, M-E-R-K. Merck. If you don't have one, write this down.
M-A-R?
M-E. Merck, just like it sounds, like Merck Pharmaceutical. Merck, M-E-R-K. Because if you run across a drug, or someone recommends a drug to you, or one of your clients tells you that they're on a drug, okay? M-E-R-K. And what you're looking for is the Merck Manual. M-A-N-U-E-L. Manual. A-L. Merck Manual, online. Now it's online. It used to be a book this way.
Too many days in the darkness, without a glimpse of the light. Running tired and broken and scared, but I swear I'll never give up the fight. I see you broken and beat, head pulled down over your eyes. Every part of you wants to surrender, but darling, you were meant to survive. With every star, we are born again. Open your heart, spend less time in your head. With every